everyone. Thanks for joining us. Bravo for showing up and for being here. Really, half of the effort is just showing up and doing the work. But if you put in the work, if you put in that effort, a little bit of intention, attention, and action spread out over time takes it from the realm of work and really brings it into just the realm of habit, right? And even play, even fun. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We'll have a chance for Q&A at the end for whoever is here live. Okay, here we go. Now, I call this the relationship report card, but also refer to this as the State of Your Union, right? Because it's a great time. Now, you can do this. I'm recording this at the end of the year. Tomorrow's the last day of the year. But really, this is a great tool to do monthly. You can do it when you have a little bit of time. You can do it when you want to have a bit more of a deeper dive. It all really is up to you on how you use this tool. We've got some great ideas, but what's most important is what are you and your beloved attracted to, and what's going to make the biggest difference for you. So now in terms of the relationship report card, if you're like, oh, grading school, we're just making a game out of this. We're just checking in and be like, how are we doing? How can we do better? Right. And so let's bring some play and fun to this and see where you are and where you want to go next. Because that's the game, right? How to have it be, right? We don't call it for loving perfectly. It's for loving better, right? And better and better and better. Okay, so the State of Your Union in 5 customizable categories. This is an a la carte activity guide, helping you to check in, connect, and create more play, peace, and passion and love and in life. Now, before we dive into today's content, I just want to tell you a little bit about For Better Love and the 4 cornerstones, right? So we have the 3 seasons, the season of play, the season of peace, and the season of passion. Because if you have a playmate and you have a sanctuary and you have a lover, then you hit the love trifecta, right? But of course, you don't hit that. It's not a luck thing. It's actually something that you invest in. Now, the 4th P, the proactive, is the what you want to bring the being proactive to all 3 of those areas. And when you really focus on those 4 cornerstones, everything else works itself out. And I've been saying lately, and by experience, the work works if you work it. And if you don't work it, you're going to get worked. It really is the habit. So being proactive, that is the 4th P. And if you bring that proactive approach to play, peace, and passion, you're going to be creating more and more and more of a great experience. Okay, so For Better Love, what we'd like to do is it's normal to have complaints as a couple, you're human, right? And turn them into an inspiring dream, a vision. And then you can take that vision and you turn it into goals. I'd like to call them games. And then we turn them into everyday realities, right? And then that way you're bringing more play, being more proactive to play, peace, and passion and love and life, bringing play to accountability. You say what you want, and then do you do it? And you say what you want, and then do you do it? And how can you be lighthearted and habitual about that? So as I mentioned, it's not about loving perfectly. It's about loving better, right? Okay, so let's take a look at the why, the when, and the how to do your own relationship report card. So we're going to start with the why, right? Why do this at all? Well, it helps you connect together and align as partners, as beloveds. It has you do a little check-in and be like, okay, let's temp check. How are we doing? Helps you get clear. Is there any challenges or conflict that's leaving some residue that's going to end up building up? Because believe me, over time, but even things that feel small, they end up building up and building up and building up. All right, then translate what is into what's next. That's why we're doing this. And finally, to create and fulfill on your shared goals and dreams. That's why we're checking in, is so that you can have more of what you want, right? So look for yourself right now with these 5 whys and ask yourself, which one is most important to you? And if there's anything specific you want to add to that, then even better. So what's your why? For why you're here now, for why you're watching this, for why you're leaning in to loving better. If you're here live, go ahead and put it in the chat. Okay, when? Taking a look at the when. So it depends on how much time you have and when you want to do this. You might want to do it once a year. Right now, I'm doing this at the end of the year. Could be as a New Year's Eve thing, a Valentine's Day thing, a your anniversary. Maybe it's something that you do 3 or 4 times a year. You drop in quarterly, right? We have the season of play, the season of peace, and the season of passion here at For Better Love. So I usually do this 3 times a year. You might have a monthly check-in, right? Check in with your report card. There's some of these activities that you can do pretty quickly. And then you may even have a weekly, like what are the check-ins that we want to do that take just 5 minutes, right? What can we do quick, quick, quick so that you're not letting too much time go between really focusing on how are you doing and how can you do better? Not like with a constant fix it, but with an attunement for how quickly we can get off track into things that are small but end up building up and eventually causing problems in your relationship and just a lack of affinity and a lack of joy and a lack of fun. All right, the how is much more fun, right? So we're going to have you create your own customized agenda, and it's important that it works for you, right? I like to say often that I'm not the sage on the stage; I'm the guide on the side. You are the one who are in your life and going to know what makes the biggest difference. So first off, is how much time do you have? Is this a 5 minute meeting? Is it a hour meeting? Is it a 3 hour meeting? Like how much time do you have? Then what topics are most important to you, right? What are your priorities and what's most important to talk about? Usually, for example, in my weekly meetings, I would talk about time, money, and goals, right? But what's most important for you to talk about? And then what are the activities that interest you? Because I'm going to show you a little menu of activities that you can choose from and find your favorites and what are your favorites at different times, because you may like one kind of thing at one time and another thing at another time. All right, let's look a little deeper. The what? All right, so here are these 5 core categories for you to pick your path. Now, every time you create an agenda and you're doing that, what works for you, I encourage you to have an opening, right? There will also then be in the core in the middle of it are the check-ins and the scorings. Then there's the clearing and the completing to clear the air. And then there's some check-in with goals or creating of goals for you. And then finally, a conscious close. Now, no matter what you do, right, I do still recommend that you always have the opening options and the conscious close, even if those are 60 seconds each, right? And maybe you only have time to do one of these. Maybe you have time to do all 3. Just depends what's going on for you. All right, first let's look at the opening options, right? What are some of these choices? Remember, don't get overwhelmed because these aren't meant to do all of these. These are meant for you to pick your favorites. And I even have a single page check sheet of all of these so that when it comes to the time for you to do one of these meetings, you can look down and just check off. You're like, let's do this, 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 and this. Great, that'll be 20 minutes and you can at least get done those 20 minutes. Certainly, there's always going to be topics that don't have enough time. And but let's face it, life is full on. And so at least this way you can prioritize and move progress forward. It doesn't have to be all issues handled every time, but having a habit that you talk about things and get them handled so they're not creeping up at any random time, but you're actually handling them at more intentional times. All right, with opening options, begin with the end in mind. So select this opening activity that works best for you. Just take a moment at first. You want to transition between what you were doing and what you're going to do next, right? And before you look at any of these big topics or important conversations, it's great if you can first just slow down, let go of what you were doing, and then pick one of the intentional openings to do. So let's look at what some of those openings might be. There's the simultaneous solo, the eye gazing, the gratitude, 5 gratitudes, the wedding vows, the marriage mantra. Plus, you also have the vision collage gazing, the word cloud, and there's 2 guided meditations that I have recorded. One is the 5-minute gratitude grounding, and then the 10-minute inner magic joy cycle. I'm going to give you a bit more detail about each of these. But again, these are choices. So you might say, okay, I don't have a bunch of time, so let me look at only the ones that are 1 to 3 minutes. Now, these are openings, so these are mostly shorter. So you might pick, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 choices, right? You can pick one. If you want to, you can pick two. But if you don't have a lot of time, then just be real quick and pick one of these 1 minute exercises, activities you can do here. All right, so you're transitioning from your own me space or whatever where you were doing to some us space. You're pausing to arrive, right? And preparing your mind so that you can be more clear and creative and choose what you're going to do. So take a moment and just sit down near each other or lay down, close your eyes and just let your body breathe you. Notice that your breathing will probably slow down, and that's a good thing. You want to be breathing slowly. And notice it's often happens that your breathing will just naturally start to sync together. So just lay there and just continue this for 1 to 3 minutes. We call that a simultaneous solo. You're right there, you're right next to each other, but you're just completely in your own space for a few minutes. Pretty simple, right? But it's amazing how much more clearly you can think when you've taken even 60 seconds to do that. Okay, now if both of you are more introverted, you may need more than 60 seconds, right? So you may want to take some time if you're going to do a relationship report card or any kind of, relationship meeting or big discussion. You may want to go ahead and before you do that, do something that really feels good for you, whether that's go work out or whatever it is that inspires and grounds you. This great quote here, don't rush something that you want to last forever. So yes, take a moment to arrive. If you want your relationship to last forever, give it a moment, give it some space. All right, the second exercise, that's an option, right? Options. Eyes are the windows into the soul. So if you want to create intimacy and connection, just be with each other for a few minutes. Just don't have any words, just the two of you connecting through your eyes. Now, giving you some specific instructions, just face each other, take each other's hands, and then don't talk, just look at each other. Breathe deep, let your breath, align, let it sink naturally, and just continue that for 3 minutes. Where words are restrained, the eyes often talk a great deal, right? The eyes are the windows into the soul. So eye gazing is just a pretty powerful, simple, free, always with you tool for connecting. Now, it may be difficult to tell how long a minute is. Sometimes it could seem like forever. 30 seconds can feel like 30 minutes. So you may want to set a timer when you go to do this exercise. All right, now this one is called 5 Gratitudes. And the 5 Gratitudes, there's so much research that's indicating the power of gratitude, right? The attitude of gratitude. So little appreciation and thankfulness goes a long way for building connection and intimacy. Most people out there feel unappreciated. And a lot of the time, we don't even know what our beloved is doing. So forget appreciating them. We don't even know that they're doing it. But what we do know is that everybody appreciates being appreciated, even if it might be awkward or uncomfortable. We'd like to be appreciated. So try to play this little game and generate and express your gratitude before you do more of the advanced efforts like addressing a conflict. It's a great idea. Just express some gratitudes. All right, 5 gratitudes, 5 gratitudes, 5 gratitudes, 5 gratitudes, 5 gratitudes, right? How to do this. So sit up straight with your eyes closed and connect with gratitude for your beloved and for your relationship. So it's very helpful. The research has indicated that the more specific you are, the better. So think of something that is recent and specific. And then don't just think about it, but let yourself experience it in your full body, the memory of it, the moment of it. And then when you're done with that, really embodying it, then open your eyes and look at each other and just each take a turn to share what you're each grateful for. Now, if you want to do a bonus round, then ask them, what do you want to be acknowledged for? It's really pretty cute when we can say, sometimes you may not even know what somebody's done and they did something that took a lot of effort. So it's a really fun question to ask. What would you like to be acknowledged for? All right, so that's your third option, right? You don't have to do all of these. And again, these can take just a few seconds. They don't have to take a long time. Now, if you're married, you might want to take out your wedding vows and just pull up a copy and read them to each other and then just declare, like, this is who we are. Now, you can take any of these steps we've done so far, a lot of them, and turn these into declarations and to goals for your 90-day games in section 4, but we'll get to section 4 in just a bit. Now, if you're getting married or you want to write wedding vows, just a little reminder of Vova Vows Visioning. If you go to forbetter.love/vows, you can find out more about that. Or, of course, just reach out to me at forbetter.love/meet, and we can set up a consult. Okay, your marriage map, right? Your marriage mantra. When you have a clear vision for your marriage, it means that you don't have to focus on all of the problems and get stuck really frustrated or your wheels spinning or in that trap of blaming, shaming, complaining, and growing apart and distance building. Instead, you can have a partnership, right? Have there be more play, peace, and passion instead. And a lot of that starts with your vision, right? So if you have a vision, great, pull it out. If you don't have a vision, then I encourage you to create one. You can check out the For Better Love Marriage Map Masterclass or the 2.5 day retreat you could do with me, or the in between the 4 sessions online on Zoom. There is the do it yourself, just buy the masterclass and get the activity guide and do it on your own. Or find your own way, but do whatever there is to do to actually have a vision that honors what's your individual vision, and then what's the overlap between your two visions, and then just focus on how do you make that more and more true, right? So read your vision out loud and then take turns, memorize it is a bonus, right? I love my marriage and my husband. We're playful, peaceful, and passionate. We're hot for each other and express it daily. We generate with intention. We communicate with care. We seek to understand, spot, and meet each other's needs and delights. We contribute for the world. We care for our bodies. We're on top of what is to be done and abundant with our finances, time, energy, and love, right? So if you haven't created one of those and you'd like to, reach out and I can help you DIY, do it yourself, or walk you through it with the full limo ride version. Okay, another thing you can do at the start of an opening is if you're more visual and you want to just, maybe even have some music on and look at a picture, you can totally do that. These are a couple of collages that I've done in the past. And you can pull those out and just say what you see of those collages. Look at it, take it all in, and then just comment on what is inspiring to you, and just do that for 1 to 3 minutes, right? Because a picture is worth 1,000 words, so use that imagery. And by the way, here is collageitfree.com is a place you can create collages, but a lot of our phones, it's easy to find those apps to do that these days. Okay, word cloud, another one there's lots of apps out there, easy to do, right? To create a word cloud of all of the key words from your vision, right? And say with these words, say them like popcorn: passion, peace, inertia, leisure, vow, fun, right? And just say some of these words and then just declare that is who we are. So of course you can create your own word cloud here or any number of other apps that are out there. Okay, I think this might be our last one, maybe one more. All right, guided meditations, the gratitude grounding. There's 5 minutes of that, which is really about getting present to gratitude, but also first releasing any stress in your body. And then the inner magic joy cycle, which is having you scan your body, looking at your current needs and emotions, and then visualizing and taking action for the next thing. But it's really about shifting your physical experience into joy. Both of these meditations can be great pattern interrupts, right? So check those out. Now, I encourage you to have easy access. Go ahead and put this URL. Oh, is it going to that page?
Hello, welcome to the Gratitude Grounding. Thanks for being here and for leaning into loving better. Please sit up straight.
You get a taste of it.
Let's go on a little journey of relaxation and presence and connection.
Okay, moving to the next one.
Close your eyes.
Okay, there you got a little taste of it with my voice there with the meditation. And you can get those easily just going to forbetter.love/meditations. Okay, now in the activity guide, or maybe you have a Google Doc or whatever works, a notebook for you, let's personalize this now. So for you, take a look, learn from each of these check-ins and have each one get better and better and better. So for the opening options, if you went and did one of those exercises, how did it go for you? What worked about this section, right? What could be even better about this section next time? And you can take notes each time you do this. All right, so let's take a look, right? This is the path we mentioned. We first started with the opening options, and now we're going to be looking at the check-in and scoring. We'll move on to clearing, goals and games, and conscious close. So let's look at that check-in and scoring. All right, a quote to start. It is not our differences that divide us. It is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences, right? Those differences are good. So we want to look at these activities, what's going to work best for you. And this is just getting present. What is the current reality, right? The what is before the what's next. So what's currently going on in these important areas of your life? It's just a temp check. You're not going to discuss what's happening. It's just take a temp check of how these things are doing. So there's 7 options here. You can do one of them. You could do all 7 of them. Again, maybe you're doing a whole weekend retreat and you want to do all of these activities together. Great. Have at it. Wonderful, right? I think that's a great idea. But maybe you don't have a ton of time, so you want to use some of the ones that are take just a couple of minutes. So let's go through each of these. We have the body, mind, heart, spirit check-in, the feelings and needs check-in, the core human needs, the playful, peaceful, passionate, and proactive check-in, the wedding vows check-in, the marriage mantra check-in, and the fights clean, sex dirty check-in. So let me go through those individually so you know what I'm talking about. But again, it's about picking your path. So this is the buffet. I'm giving you options, and as we go along in the chat, feel free to put what your comments are and which ones seem to resonate best for you, right? Okay, so how are you feeling right now in these 4 different areas? So score yourself and then share that with your beloved. So with your body, how's your body doing? How's your mind doing? How's your heart doing? And how's your spirit doing? Now, just use a number. You don't want to go too far off track and start getting into explaining or triggers of things. So just give a number with this body, mind, heart, spirit, and each of you take a turn with that, right? So that can just literally take 2 minutes, even shorter, very quick, right? So now for yourself, right, with scoring this activity, you can see I've got a little sheet for body, mind, heart, spirit. You can put the number in, and then you can add any comments about why you're possibly feeling that way, or just stick to a number, up to you. Now, you may take these and turn these into goals as well, right? Excuse me, let's just say your heart is pretty low, and you may want to take your notes about why your heart is low here and turn that into a goal. All right, moving right along. Okay, so here we are with 2.2. And by the way, there's 2 levels of check-ins. There's an individual check-in for yourself and for your relationship. So this one with Marshall Rosenberg, with nonviolent communication, it's about your feelings and about your needs, right? And there are 11 core feelings when your needs are being met and 14 core feelings when your needs are not being met. So you can go ahead and check in and see and score how are we doing in these areas, right? Now, this next activity is going to be about scoring the 7 core human needs, but first, focus on your feelings, right? Now, don't expect your beloved to be responsible for your feelings or for getting your needs met. It is up to you, right? You can inspire your beloved to play with you, but ultimately, they're your needs, and you're responsible for getting those needs met, right? All right, so still looking at your feelings, but personalizing this, doing this for yourself, either in a notepad. Of course, I've got all the feelings listed in the activity guide. So if you've got the activity guide, you can use that. And again, taking these, what are you feeling and what are your needs? And how can you use that to turn it into goals in section 4? All right, 2.3, 7 core human needs. Marshall Rosenberg and nonviolent communication, otherwise known as compassionate communication. So I love it if you look for yourself, and I do this once a month. Most commonly, when I don't, I pay the price. But how well are these 7 core human needs being met for you right now? Right, again, this was looking at the individual. Connection, honesty and trust, autonomy, meaning, physical well-being, peace, and play. If you're here right now, live, you can score those and put that in the chat. Right? And if you're not and you're doing the replay, go ahead and pause, use your notebook or the activity guide, right? And ask yourself, Is this need being met? Give it a number, 1 to 10, and then add a few comments. Here are some of the cheat sheets that we have, and I've actually just redone these, so you'll see a new version of those coming soon. All right, now we're going to look at the relationship check-ins, right? Now, the relationship check-ins, how are you doing as a couple? How are you doing with play? How are you doing with peace? How are you doing with passion? And how are you doing with being proactive, right? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And then just add any notes. This can be done really quickly. Just scale it using a number from 1 to 10. If the two of you disagree, then use the average number of your score. And then just be sure that, again, that you're using this to feed that into turning it into some goals in step 4. Your wedding vows, we used it for an opening, but your wedding vows can also be used for a great check-in, right? Here's some example of some wedding vows. And you can check in and see how well are we doing on these, any more work we need to do on those. I had one wedding vow that was just a 10 year after year. And we thought to ourselves, well, how are we going to recalibrate that 10? And because we're a 10 every year, how can we even make that be better? So it doesn't have to be a problem to be working on it. So you can use those vow scores and create it as the inspiration for creating what's next for you as a couple. So of course, there is a scoring sheet for that in your activity guide as well. So score how true each one is now. If you disagree, do the average, and then list some thoughts on some next steps. Now, you could also score your marriage mantra if you have one of those. So maybe you have wedding vows, or maybe you're not married and you have a shared relationship vision, whether you've done that with me or with somebody else. But you can go through and score with each one of these and see how you're doing in each one of those areas. If you don't have a marriage mantra or a shared relationship vision and you would like one, you can either do it DIY or done for you. You just go to the For Better Love /marriage map, and you can do that at your own pace or do that with support. Of course, there's a sheet for that in your activity guide. So you can take a look for that one, score each area, how true is it, and bonus, turn those into some goals. Second to the last one, this is again a relationship check-in. This is for keeping the fights clean and the sex dirty, one of our favorite mantras around here, our favorite phrases. So before a fight starts, as one starts, in the heat of it, and after it's over, and before you get it on, during seduction, and getting in the heat of it, and in the heat of it, and after you're done, right? So what are those things that you can do? Well, we'll turn it into some goals, but first, before we look at what you can do, just really looking at how are you doing, right? One of my favorite phrases, save being nasty for your sex life. So before a fight starts, as one starts, in the heat of it, and after it's over, what are you going to do, right? What are your notes? How are you doing? How could you do better? So you can take these 4 different categories and list them here in your activity guide. Are you doing terrible? Are you doing great? And how could you do better, right? That's what the notes are for. How could you do better? Do that for both keeping the fights clean and do that for keeping the sex dirty. Now, this page here is for the end of the whole section for 2.0, not just that one activity, but for all of the check-in activities. So take your notes and say, all right, we did this activity and we did this activity. These ones worked, these ones didn't work. Next time I want to try this one. So that just each time it's getting better and better because you're practicing what works and what you want to try next time. Okay, moving on to our third of the 5 core categories. This one is with clearing, completing, and creating. You want to move past any conflicts, not sweep things under the rug so that they become a problem later on, right? So quality is not an act, it is a habit. So let's look at this clearing, completing, and creating, right? Not all issues need to be resolved in the moment, and it can be wise, just pause and hold an issue until there's a better, more intentional time. Now, if you don't circle back, right, it's going to end up like in that rift residue, right, that it kind of builds up like earwax, right? And ultimately it comes back to bite you in the butt, trip you up, something happens, and often at the worst time possible. So if you're going to make sure that you're moving forward and not getting tripped up by those things, it's best that you do a clearing. Again, it's not to do all of these, right? But you can pick your path See how much time you have. You can see this one is 15 to 60 minutes, 10 to 30. So those are the longest, but these are only 5 to 15 minutes. So you can go with the shorter ones if that's all you have time for, right? So the communications check, the OCC, ownership, compassion, creativity, to let go of blame and embrace partnership. The argument even better ifing, to assess a recent or a repeat argument and how to do better. The rift residue removal, to get fully seen, heard, validated, and empathized with on a key issue. And finally, the common conflicts into peace practices, and that's translating any negativity into next steps. So let's look at these a little more carefully, right? Checking in regularly. You don't want to let things stack up, whether it's something that was said or a text or an email or just things fall through. So this first one with communication check is just looking at, is there anything that needs to be cleared or completed? Are there any channels that of communication that things have been stacking up with that you need to get caught up with? And are there any topics that you need to follow up on, any to-dos, any scheduling requests, any finances, any sweet talking that's needed, right? What kind of communications are needed, right? So there's an activity for you to fill those in, make it personal, get specific, and then turn those into goals. Okay, now 3.2 is the ownership, compassion, and creativity. This is one of my favorite tools, and it really eliminates the blaming, shaming, or complaining, because that just doesn't help, right? It doesn't. When, we're just like a camera. When the aperture closes, no light can get in, right? And so if you're making someone wrong, blaming, shaming, or complaining, it's totally, the aperture is going to close and there's no way a light can penetrate and get in. So just don't bother. Don't get stuck by making your beloved wrong or dismissing their experience. If you use this tool, then you're going to, at minimum, you're going to first restore the connection, and then you can move forward with resolving the conflict. Now, you can use it before an argument starts, as an argument starts, in the middle of it, and afterwards. This tool is great most any time. If you're taking ownership, you want to, just really get that ownership is one of the fastest ways you can realign with your partner. It is the antidote to blame, right? If you show compassion, then you're getting into their world, and it's not because they're right and you're wrong, but it's because you actually care about them and care about their experience, and that what they're experiencing is important just because it's them. So you don't have to agree with them for this one, but you can show compassion for them. And then the second C, OCC, is for sparking creativity, really tapping into that and help you navigate. How do you get out of this conflict, and not just out of it, but how do you move forward? Think of it as more of like, hey, you want to play a game, right? You're making suggestions, you're including options, you're inviting them, right? And offering ideas and suggestions without your attachment to any of them. So for yourself, doing that tool, the OCC, this can take 2 minutes, right? I put in here 10 to 15 minutes, but you can actually do this one really, really quickly. I take ownership for, I have compassion regarding, and to heal and move forward with creativity, we could, right? I encourage you to say 3 options in an invitation. We could do this, this, or this. What do you think we should do? Okay, argument even better ifing. So this one is for a recent or a repeat argument. Once the argument is over, most people just want to move on, right? But if you move forward, it's way better. And it just takes a little bit of time invested. So some of the do's are: use this after an argument, lean into the lessons, take ownership, and turn your argument into intimacy. What you don't want to do is use this during an argument. You do not want to just move on, blame or complain, or turn your argument into an escalation. So if things are escalating for you and it's difficult to use this tool, pause, don't do it, and get some support. You can go ahead and take a look at the forbetter.love/coaching page, or just to the /meet and set up a call with me, and we can do a consult and see how I can support you. Okay, with argument even better ifing, be sure that the argument is indeed over. And then you want to score how you did in each area, not how your partner did. But you want to, before you actually score it, is you want to name the argument. I'm going to give you some specific areas on the next slide on how you do the scoring, right? But once you do the scoring, you can then create specific goals on how to do better. So if you look at these 5 areas, one is, how often does this argument happen? How extreme or bad did it get? How long did it last? Did you use any tools? And did you learn any lessons, right? And then you want to score how you each did and put an average. Now, most people score this, especially with this tools, I think tools, what tools, right? It's quite low. And then just those low, use those low scores to indicate how you can, where you should look to do better, right? If it's how long it lasts and you want to look at how can I stop sooner? If it's I didn't use any tools, then how can I make a tool more memorable and easily accessible? If it's how often it happens, it's how long can I go? How can I go? If it was 3 days, how can I go 6 days next time? Right. So the area that it's low in is will give you an indication of where the best place is to work. Right. Okay, so again, turn what you find here into the goals in section 4. We're almost there. Now, this one, the rift residue removal, this is another option for you getting clearing and completing and creating. And this one's about clearing out that residue, right? I mentioned that earwax before. So if you don't, then things layer and layer and layer, and then ultimately they blow up. But this is about having you feel more heard, validated, and empathized with. Now, the way to do that is to slow down the communication that you first are sending a message so that it's clear, it lands, and it gets results. Second, you want to receive the message so that you both feel complete, seen, and heard. And third, you want to get into a playful mode, a co-creative exploration of solutions that you will both be into, right? So, to send your message, when you're going to send a message, it's not just emotional vomit and dumping. You want to actually get focused on these. What's my intention? Whoops, nothing there. What's my intention? What's the one topic that I'm sticking to? What is the appointment? So make sure that your timing is important and that you are talking with them at a good time. Reinforce this is a good one to make sure that they know they're not all wrong and that you want to give them some kudos of what their efforts have added up to already. The it art of win with tone, the T for tone. 90% of your communication is nonverbal. So all of this is for how to deliver a message so that it really lands. Now, often people get stuck in this area, the observation of the fact. So be really brief and keep it simple there. And then finally, the feelings, you want to communicate what your feelings are. A very common rule with communication is your words, right? Never say never. Make sure you're not using exclusionary words. The I is for the oldest communication rule in the book of using I statements. And last but not least, the N is about needs and focusing on your needs, right? And knowing what your needs are in the moment and knowing what your childhood needs are. So all of those are from the rift residue removal of how to send a message so that it lands and how to receive a message so that you really hear it, right? And then eventually you're going to, not eventually, but at the end of this experience, then you're going to give the gift of getting them, right? So that they really feel heard. And to do that, it's mirror, summarize, confirm, complete, validate, and empathize, which I'll explain in just a moment. But make sure communication creates victory every time, right? And so that is making sure that when they took the time to send this message, that you're really listening to them and giving it back to them and making sure that they feel validated and empathized with. Now, after both people have had their chance to send their message and to be heard, now you can start talking about how can we move forward together? We're both validated. What do we do? Well, first of all, make it a game. Then bring in options, right? 3 options and an invitation. Start small. Don't just have such a huge topic right away. And then go slow. Okay, so rift residue removal. We have the activity guide, makes it much easier to just fill that out. There's a quote here: listening is an art that requires attention over talent, spirit over ego, and others over self. All right, we have a couple more here: clearing and completing and creating. This one is turning common conflicts into peace practices, right? So they are a handful of conflicts that you probably repeat regularly. And then you have those reactions that pull you into those unhelpful habits, right? We want to bring you into helpful habits that are going to bring you closer together. So this is about looking at what you can do in advance so that you can do better and better and better next time. So what you're going to do is on the left, you list your 3 most common conflicts. And then on the right, you want to translate the reactionary conflict into a healthy habit. So complain away on the left-hand side and then just translate it. What is a practice or an activity or a habit that would counteract that? Now, at the end of this section of section 3, again, you have a notes. What are the activities you did? What worked about those activities? What activities do you want to try next? And just even if you just take 60 seconds to jot down a few notes, it can make a big difference for the future, right? So put the date, what worked, and what could be even better. All right, moving right along, we're on the fourth section, the goals and games. What do you do to create new goals and check in with your existing ones, right? So these I like to do games in 90-day chunks. The fountain of happiness can be found in how you behave, think, and what goals you set every day for your life, every day of your life. Excuse me. Goals are important. It's not even the achieving the goals, it's the pursuing of them that actually research shows is what's most important. So this is about pursuing what you both want, right? It may be one thing to handle the problems, but it's going to be even more beneficial when you start becoming not just partners, but playmates and creating more and more of what you both want. So one of the top proven practices for creating happiness is to pursue goals. That woman we just had the quote from, she's got a great book called The How of Happiness with 12 practices that have been proven to create happiness, including pursuing your goals. So if that applies to life, why not apply that to your marriage? Why not pursue those goals together, right? The couple that pursue goals together not only stays together, they thrive together, right? So here are some activities that you can try out. The goals, 90-day game creation, capturing your declared actions, doing a status check, but you pick your path. Let's look at them a little bit more closely. Now, again, if you don't have a shared vision yet to create your goals, I've got the activity guide for that, or you can go to forbetter.love/map and get in on that. All right, so creating your goals, right? So this activity will put you on this path to not only getting what you both want, but it actually makes the path itself a lot more enjoyable, right? So first as an individual, it's really important what matters to you, and then look at how those two merge, but honor both of them. So then you'll have this shared vision, you'll have your marriage vows, you'll have what's current and important to both of you, and anything that you've learned from the other activities here. These are all things that you can take as inspiration on what your 90-day goals might be moving forward from here. Okay, so this is what it looks like in your activity guide, and I encourage you to keep it to just three core areas, right? And so it could be time, it could be finances, and it could be communication, right? Whatever those are. But pick those top 3 areas for yourself so that you're narrowing things down. Here's a list of some areas. You can pick another topic as well. But what are your top priorities for that period of time, right? Again, stop focusing on fixing problems and start enjoying the pursuit of what you both want. Right, so here's what that looks like in your activity guide. And once you get one of those activity guides, you can print as many copies as you want. So you can do that. Some people do it once a year. I recommend once a month, but you can do it whenever it works best for you. Okay, so checking in with your goals, right? That is all that. Personalize it, personalize it, personalize it, and compare what you said you do with what you actually did, right? So what worked and what would be even better. This is at the end of the whole section 4. So in this case, which activities did you do? Which ones did you like? How did they go? What worked? What could be even better? So I encourage you to, when you're doing this process, keep capturing those notes to have it get better and better and better and better. All right, we have our last section, the conscious close, right? The conscious close, wrapping it up. Success is a measure decided by others. Satisfaction is a measure decided by yourself. So how's this close going to be? Hopefully it's successful and satisfying. So take a moment to close with intention, right? Your connection, your intention, and your intimacy is the foundation for all of the other parts to work well. So if you start and end there, right? If you're bookending any of these key conversations with these opening and closing activities, it can make a huge difference. So do that every time, right? You have an important meeting or you're doing, a special date together or something. I encourage you to do these opening and these closings. Now, here's a couple of options, right? Scoring what worked and what could be even better if, creating your agenda for next time, and doing an intimate off ramp. And of course, you pick your path again. So the conscious close with the scoring of what worked and what would be even better if you can score how you're currently doing in each area, right? And then put a number in the heart for how on target you feel and any notes in the provided section. The creating your agenda for the next time, right, is a really good time to create your agenda. So look at what worked and what could be even better, and then draft your agenda for the next time. Now, another one is an intimate off ramp, right? You can take any, go back to the opening and look and see what might some of those conscious closings be. The simultaneous solo, the eye gazing, the gratitudes, any of those ones that we talked about at the beginning, right? Okay, so for the end of that section, for the section 5 with the conscious close, that would be the place that you would put your notes on what did I learn from this section? What do I want to do differently next time? Do I need to put it in my calendar? So when you look at it in its totality, we have the openings options, the check-in and scoring, the clearing, completing, and creating, the setting and checking in with your goals, and the conscious close with the openings and the close being the two pieces you want to make sure, even if it's a minute each, but you do that at the beginning of each one. So this is what I meant when I said the one-page checklist. So you could have this just printed, have, 10 copies, 12 copies for the year, set a goal of doing one a month and put the name of the month up at the top, right? Put the date in your calendar to do this, and then just check off which of the activities you're going to do. And on the back of the page, put your notes on what you learned and how it went and what your declared actions are, right? I'm trying to make it easy and accessible and fun for you. This is what it looks like when it's in the actual playbook. Now, I have one little bonus for you, and that's just the reminder that your brain is designed to forget. So I want you to create some prompts on how you can remember to take action on these, right? And just pick your favorites. It might work for you and not for your beloved, but what are the prompts, right? So first, what to set prompts for. Maybe you heard a core message here or some aha. Maybe there was a quote that was used in this playbook that you liked, or maybe some of the top habits that you're declaring or some of your insights, whatever that is. Capture what you want your reminders to be. Now, where to set your reminders? Your fridge is a great place, bathroom mirror, electronically on your computer and your home screen, or even you may want to tell another couple. Maybe you're in another group or do a social media post and let people know this is what you're doing. Hey, I'm going to do 12 check-ins for my relationship. Okay, so as I was mentioning, the two core areas of the pick your prompts are what do you want to be reminded of and where do you want to be reminded? So choose the what and the where, and then set up your prompts and then follow through. Read them, say them out loud, engage in them, and just resist the temptation to tell your partner what to do. You focus on you and let them focus on them. All right, now I already created some prompts as well. I've got some fun graphics and things like that that fit your phone. So you can go ahead and grab those prompts as well. I believe maybe Maya, you can put that in the chat. I think those will come in your email. But if you don't find those and don't have access to them, just send me an email and I'll make sure that we get those to you at Gabby@forbetter.love. All right, finally, let's wrap up with some next options because you have next steps because you have options. All right. Now we've got some DIY resources, right? The relationship playbook you can work with, the cheat sheet, the prompts that are in the playbook as well. And of course, my new favorite is the For Better Love AI coach, which I will be charging for in the future. But for right now, I'm giving that away for free. So if you just go to forbetter.love, /AI coach, you'll be able to find that. And I've got all my blogs, all my content, all the master classes input in there. So it's a great place to get coaching. But just remember, you may want to check out the AI and intimacy masterclass that it's a dangerous tool. It's really causing problems for couples. So there's more to pay attention to of what not to do than what there is to do. So if you're having any problems with that, I encourage you to check out that particular masterclass or reach out to me. Okay, now maybe you just need a little bit more broad support, and it's not about any of the topics we've had tonight. I just want to briefly share with you. So, if you are in the struggling category and you just need to vent one on one with me, we can do that. You need to look at one particular argument. I mentioned the argument even better ifing tonight, and or the rift residue, and you just want to be heard. I can do that. If you're doing pretty well, and either you're getting married and you want to write wedding vows, you want to create your shared relationship vision, or play a 90-day game, we can do that. And my favorite is these 1 to 3 day personalized retreats. And I put a little capital T in there because it is a real treat. So no matter where you are, let's talk about what is next for you. You can set up a call at forbetter.love/meet. And at least at the time of recording this, I'm still doing no cost consult calls. It's getting pretty busy these days. I might not be able to do those much longer. So jump in and come visit me and touch base as soon as you can. And what I like to do is make sure that I give you at least one tip you can use immediately. And then we see, is there any fit for how I might work with you in a more personalized and customized basis. You can also check us out on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube. For those of you who are here live, thanks for being here and stay on for the Q&A. I'm going to stop the recording. For those of you watching the replay, good job for taking action. Reach out and let me know how we can continue to support you. Here's to creating more play, peace, and passion in love and in life. Bye-bye.